In this video, I'm going to cover 20 things you must know for this new Apex Legends season. If anyone is new here, I just want to let you know that my channel centers around helping you all improve at Apex. So let's dive right into this crash course and get you up to speed for season 12. Tip number 1, Olympus is back and we have multiple new POIs on the south side of the map. One is called Phase Driver and one is called Terminal. Terminal will be the POI that bridges Hammond Labs and Phase Driver. Now over in Phase Driver, in order to activate the loot, you just need to interact with the Phase Driver. If you do so, a bunch of loot drops will fall down, but it will have a very loud noise that will alert any neighboring teams. This POI is very similar to Fight Night, and it's got a ton of supply bins surrounding it, so even if you miss out on the loot in the middle, there's plenty on the edge. Personally, I would secure a weapon first before activating the Phase Driver because it's not a guarantee the loot drops will give you a weapon. It's usually other loot that they drop, like armors, backpacks, attachments, things like that. Tip number 2, Mad Maggie runs the same speed with a shotgun as she does while holstered. Now using her ultimate, you and your teammates run about 30% faster than normal velocity. And that big wrecking ball, well, it's going to deal damage and stun your opponents if it hits them. Now, if you're on the other end of it, you cannot destroy a Mad Maggie ultimate. This ultimate is probably B tier or A tier. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. It can be a lot to deal with if a team is very aggressive on you. So just be aware that this ultimate has a short cooldown and you are going to be seeing a lot of it for the first few weeks of the season. Tip number 3, Ranked got some changes and we've got to talk about them. Now, last season, it was all about kill points, aka KP. This proved to be somewhat of a flawed system, so for season 12 you just want to be aware that placement is way more important now, particularly placing in the top 5. The KP cap has also been reduced, however this is contingent on your placement. Now I will cover this more in my upcoming ranked videos, so basically the TLDR is get a few KP and play for placement, because the max points you can earn from KP is now 125 instead of 175. Tip number 4, Tap Strafing is still here for anyone who thought it was gone, but punch boosting is no longer a thing. Let's take a moment of silence for punch boosting, and while y'all are doing that, why don't you go ahead and smash the like button, because this helps on my video tremendously. It's free and only takes a second of your time. Tip number 5, Caustic got nerfed, but it's not as bad as I think some people thought. The Caustic trap can now be destroyed after it's been activated. It takes about 150 HP to destroy it, and the gas will still linger for about 2 seconds, but that's only going to deal like 5 damage if the enemies are in it. Caustic will still be strong in niche moments, but without a doubt, he's not as good as he once was. If you are going to be playing Caustic this season, I would be more proactive with activating traps by shooting them yourself, and that way the opponent will be forced to either shoot the trap to destroy it or shoot you while they take damage from your gas. Tip number 6, the Shatter Caps hop up is now built into the 30-30 repeater and the bow check. So you can't toggle this on or off. These guns will shoot in a spray pattern like a shotgun when you hip fire these guns. Damage is now 7 per pellet instead of 8, and I'm not sure how I feel about this change, to be honest, but I haven't been able to use these guns a ton so far in season 12. I do think it will overall make them more viable, but I wish we had the ability to toggle it on or off. Tip number 7, the flatline and longbow have been fully removed from floor loot this season. They will be exclusively found in the replicators throughout the map. Now it's only 30 crafting metal to purchase one of these weapons, and they will come with 2 boxes of ammo and no attachments. The flatline was also slightly nerfed, so the damage per shot is now 18 instead of 19, but I can tell you it doesn't really feel that much different. It's still a very strong weapon. Now on one hand, having these weapons in the replicators is viable because crafting has become more accessible and they've made it cheaper to do, and there's more crafting around the maps. On the other hand, it is kind of annoying to only be using these 2 good weapons by having to purchase them in a replicator. So we'll see how it balances out over the season, but all in all, they are still viable guns and you can basically get them every match if you're landing near replicators. Tip number 8, and this is a huge change that not too many people are going to know. The Legends have new dialogue quips that tell you when enemy teams are landing with you and when they have cracked an armor. This is extremely helpful for people who solo queue or even duo queue with randoms on no voice communications. This gives you so much more information about fights that you otherwise would never know. So I really applaud Apex Apex for making these changes, albeit they're subtle, but trust me, they will make a huge difference as you go about solo queuing pubs or ranked this season. Be sure to have dialogue volume turned on so you can hear these quips. Tip number 9, crypto obviously got a bunch of changes and you are now able to use the drone without actually being in it. Now this can be extremely helpful for on-the-go utility in fights. You can just tap your tactical button and the drone will fly out in the direction you are looking at. If you hold to interact the tactical, then you will use it from the drone view like he did in the previous seasons. Now, if you use the drone by just tapping it, be sure to keep in mind where you last left it at. So I've been making a note of actively recalling my drone and then sending it back out as I continue to move throughout the map. The drone's HP is now also 50 instead of 60, so leaving it out for too long can have it get destroyed by enemies. Be conscious of this. I'll be doing a tier list later this week, so stay tuned to where I think all the legends rank so far. Tip number 10, we've got a new hop up, the Kinetic Feeder, which goes on the triple take and the Peacekeeper. Now this will make it so you can choke the guns faster while sliding, and it will also automatically reload your gun the longer you slide. I think this hop up is extremely viable on both guns, but there is currently a bug with it that is making the Peacekeeper shoot like an EVA 8. The dev team said they are aware of this and hopefully they're gonna hot patch that soon. So even with a quick slide jump, this will fully choke these weapons while using this hop up. So try it out and see how quickly you can pump someone for 100 with the PK. And for any of you advanced movement tech users, all of this applies while you do a super glide as well. Tip number 11, we have a returning hop up that some of you will be familiar with, while others of you who've just started playing Apex will have never used, and it's called the hammer points. And this amplifies health damage to opponents. It's basically the opposite of the hop up that was on the alternator last season. The guns this can go on are the Mozambique, the P2020, and the RE45. These 3 weapons will be extremely viable for secondary weapons if you are able to find the hammer point hop up. The ways in which you want to be using these guns with the hammer point is basically as an enemy is cracked or close to it. You can just swap to your secondary and you're going to kill the opponent super fast. Tip number 12, enemies are now highlighted in the new Apex LTM control. And here's how I believe it to work. You or your teammate needs to look at the enemy. You don't even need to deal damage and you will see a red highlighted image of them actively. I have no clue why they would add this feature, but it's clearly a thing. As far as tips go for the LTM, make sure you are actively securing 2 of the checkpoints. The goal should be to own 2 of them while the enemy holds 1 of them. And that way you force them to a specific side of the map and you will end up beating them in points. This game mode is a little hectic at times, but I think it will be useful to warm up and get into some quick fights. Other than that, I think some previous LTMs are better, but I want to know what you guys think about Control down in the comments. It's only going to be out for the first 3 weeks of this season for anyone who's unaware. Tip number 13. They have made a lot of changes to the Prowlers over on Stormpoint, and Stormpoint will come back into the public match rotations after the first week of the season. Now, the most notable changes are that you get more crafting materials for clearing each Prowler nest, and they reduce the damage the Prowlers will deal to us from 30 down to 20. They also supposedly buffed the loot that they will drop and shouldn't be as aggressive on us as we run from our lives as we're getting third-partied. Tip number 14. The triple take saw a slight nerf, particularly in the damage per shot, from 23 down to 21, and they altered the projectile growth so it shouldn't be as effective from super long ranges. I have had a chance to use this gun quite a bit already, and I think it's still the best marksman rifle, but it isn't as annoying to go against as it was last season. Tip number 15. This is more clarification, but it's still worth noting. The Rampage nerf we saw at the end of Season 11 was actually supposed to come on Season 12. So as of right now, there are no future nerfs planned for it as Respawn evaluates its most recent changes. I know some people who read the patch notes were a bit confused by them mentioning it again, but it wasn't nerfed twice, although it should be. I expect the gun to continue to be a very strong weapon this season and very difficult to fight against. Tip number 16. If you're ever quitting matches before you got knocked because you knew you were going to die, well, that will no longer work. Quitting players can no longer deny kills or assists. Tip number 17. The first 3 weeks of the season will reward you with a total of 9 packs, and these will be thematic packs. They will be released week by week, and they will have Octane, Watson, and Valkyrie themes. So you will get rewards related to each of those legends. If you don't already have the legends unlocked, they will give them to you for free. The anniversary collection event should be released in the next week, I believe. Tip number 18. The gold weapons this season will be the RE45, Havoc, Triple Take, Peacekeeper, and the Prowler. Now, this is a pretty good lineup for gold weapons because 4 out of 5 of them are going to come with their preferred hop-up, so you're going to get to see these guns at their max capacity, so be on the lookout for gold weapons this season. It's kind of a sleeper pick in my opinion. Tip number 19. This isn't really a tip, but just something players should be aware of. There were no notable changes to arenas in Season 12. This is kind of a letdown given how that game mode currently is. The rank system is extremely flawed, along with the matchmaking that may be trying to do its best, but it's totally not balanced. I have a feeling arenas could be removed due to the lack of interest in it, but that is just speculation on my part, and it probably wouldn't be a thing until Season 13 at the earliest. Ultimately, more will be revealed. Tip number 20. You gotta try to find some teammates to play with this season, especially if you're struggling while solo queuing. I know a lot of you solo queue, and if you're looking for teammates this season, I'd recommend you join my Discord. The link will be in the description. We have multiple LFGs and tons of people who are active daily, looking for teammates to grind ranked with or just relax and play some pubs with. If you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing so you don't miss out on my next upload. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you on my next one. Peace.